Hi, so the resource I'm going to be talking to you today about is Tumble Books, and this is an online storybook website where teachers and students are able to access any storybooks to read during lessons or in their spare time. And this is an excellent resource for kids from KG to grade 5, and it's particularly looking at digital literacy, so English would be primarily the subject, and we're also looking at reading as the main focus. And when I show you a little bit about what Tumble Books is all about, you can also see that there are math stories as well that kids can look into and sort of incorporate reading with math. So that's kind of incorporating two subjects together, which is also great. And this resource really allows kids to explore their skill as a reader and evidently test themselves in what they have read after the reading. And one of the things that I really like about this resource is it really respects the idea of student diversity, as it not only gives a voice to the words as you follow along in the story, it also bolds the words, so students who may not know what a word means or may not know how to pronounce a word, they're able to look back and understand how you're supposed to actually read the word. So this is great for students who just come to from a foreign country and they've come to Canada and they're not able to understand English primarily right off the bat. They can use this website to understand how to pronounce the words and be able to understand what the words mean. And so I'm going to just give you a free glance at how Tumble Books work. Hopefully you can see this. So Tumble Books, as you can see, you need to have a username and password, which is right at the top there, and that is the only way that you'd be able to access most of these book collections, which is one of the drawbacks. And if you're working in a school where they do prescribe Tumble Books and us teachers do have that resource, then this would be amazing for teachers to incorporate in their lesson plans, in their quizzes, or anything like that. But again, it really depends on what the school has. So I'm just going to show you a free preview of how books work. So once you log in, you would see all these categories listed at the top. So starting from storybooks to read-alongs to ebooks to graphic novels to nonfiction, videos, and then that's where I was talking about the math stories, language learning, playlists, puzzles, and games. I'm just going to click on one of the resources so you can have an understanding of how it works. So I'm going to click on the very first one. So the very first one here gives you a little synopsis of what the book is about, what the story is about. It looks at what grade level this is also going to be used for. And then it also has things like quizzes, lesson plans, book reports that as teachers we can incorporate into our lesson plans. And so now when we look into our 21st century, we want to incorporate more of technology into the life of our students. So this would be great for students to, create that pedagogical shift from reading books to now going onto websites and looking at a bunch of books, and it's all right in their fingertips versus, in the books and libraries if you go to, you would have to look through each and every book and category and everything, whereas this is all listed for you, and it even tells you if it's the right kind of fit for your grade. There are also ebooks. And unfortunately, I'm not able to open it on this iPad, but I can just show you here. It says read online, sorry. And again, it tells you what grade you're going to be looking at. And this read along online here, you can click on that and it'll open up a new web page where they will bold the terms and they will even have a voice for each of the words as well. So you're really reading along as you go. So it's really great for students who have difficulty understanding a language, if they have difficulty reading, understanding how to pronounce a word, all these things. It will help them to read better. One of the setbacks I would say is that this read-along doesn't actually account for students of the IPRC exceptionalities. So for instance, deaf and hard of hearing, or blind and low vision, or autism, or learning disabilities, which are all found on the OTF website. So in this case, for these students in particularly, it's not a resource that is inclusive in terms of creating that equitable learning. Another critique about this resource is that it's not a free resource. And as you can see, I just was able to go to the free preview, but if I just go under pricing on how the Tumble books are priced, again, it's very expensive. So it's not something that a lot of schools will have, a lot of parents will be able to afford for their students. So this is one of the setbacks, I would say, that it's not something that you can easily access as a teacher and as a student as well, and you have to pay a certain amount in order to be able to access it. Another issue that came up was because this is an online resource, if teachers do not have access to technology or are not so comfortable with incorporating technology to their students, then this is a tool that they will not be able to use. And there is a free preview section, just like as I showed you earlier, that teachers can use, but it doesn't give access to a lot of the books. And instead, they can, supplement this by just going to the library, getting students to get books, or, you could use, if your classroom has iPads, you can use things like Kindle, Google Play books as well, instead of Tumble books. So that would be one of the supplements. There's also things like iBooks and Kubo, but again, this really depends on how much teachers have access to the technology and how much the school is actually willing to have these things like Tumble books, or if it even has iPads, or even if students are able to get a hold of laptops, right? And not all schools have that accessibility. So this is definitely one of the setbacks. And as I mentioned earlier, it is a great resource. It really is. And it's really nice for teachers to be able to incorporate this into their lesson plans. It's great for teachers to be able to put up on the screen and have everybody within the classroom read at the same time, at the same pace, following along. But it doesn't create that equitable learning for students who have that disability. So it's a drawback in that sense. And overall, this is something that I would recommend if your school does have technology, if your school does have, iPads for students within a classroom. It's great to download and just have with them, but there are other supplements that they can use, like I mentioned earlier. So it's not something that has to be used, but it can be, and it's great just because everything is right there in your fingertips versus Kindle and Kubo and Google Play Books don't have any of these options. And especially the option of incorporating math as well into English. So students are able to see that, math can also be English and be able to see that correlation between two subjects, which is very hard for teachers to be able to do within their lesson plans. So overall, it is a great resource if it's accessible to teachers. And I wish it was a free resource, but unfortunately it's not. But I would recommend it to anyone who is willing to try it within their classrooms if, their school does have this resource. So teachers out there, if you do want to, use some sort of digital literacy into your English, this is definitely, Tumble Books is definitely a great resource. And here are my references. And that's it. Thank you for watching my video.